Hey everyone, David here. The wait is over, Severance is back. The Lorehounds are teaming up with Properly Howard to bring you comprehensive coverage of Season 2. Join John, Anthony, Steve, and myself each week as we dive into this amazing show. Here's what you need to know. We've set up a dedicated feed for our Severance coverage. To join us, just search for Severance Lorehounds in your podcast player, or click the feed link in our link tree. You'll find that in the show notes below. If you're already a Patreon or Supercast subscriber, don't worry. You'll get the ad-free versions automatically in your regular feed. Plus, exclusive access to our upcoming bonus episodes that we'll be announcing soon. The early reviews are incredible. Apple's marketing push is huge, and we cannot wait to explore this season with you. And unlike the music dance experience, you don't need Mr. Milchick's permission to join us. Don't forget, you can find the feed link in our link tree in the show notes, or just search Severance Lorehounds wherever you get your podcasts. Join us for what's shaping up to be an incredible season.
And remember, your outie will thank your innie for subscribing.
Hello and welcome. The Wool Shift Silo is open and ready to invite you in to help us analyze the Silo Season 2 finale. Don't mind that light dusting of gas on the way in and don't get caught in the firelock. We're going to take you into the fire of Episode 10 this week, but not that literally. And who are we? Well, this week I'm sad to report that Luke was not up for a recording. He spent some time in the hospital at the start of this week due to an issue in his shoulder, and he needs a bit more time to recover. He told me to tell you that, and that he's sad he couldn't be here with us today. But he did send in a voicemail with his finale thoughts. So we'll listen to that in a bit, and then he'll be back for the mailbag wrap-up, which we're still aiming to do end of next week if possible. So keep sending in your feedback to wolfshiftdustpodcast@gmail.com. And thank you so much to those of you who already have. I've been taking peeks at it, and I'll respond to you all properly when I'm putting that episode together. Okay, so no Luke this week, but fear not, you're not stuck with me alone. We have John from the Lorehounds here. Hi, John.
Hello. I mean, it's me, Elysia. Luke, I'm here.
Yes, that's excellent impression.
Thank you.
People don't even notice. If you're not a Lorehounds listener already, you might recognize John from Season 1's mid-season check-in or game show wrap-up episode, or from the preview episode for Season 2 of Severance that I dropped in this feed earlier this week. So, yeah, John, thank you so much for stepping in this week. I know that you and the guys are very busy right now prepping for your Severance Season 2 coverage, which is going to drop on Apple TV Plus the same day as this Silo episode that we're talking about right now. So what are you most looking forward to with Severance this season in your coverage?
Well, I think I'm most looking forward to just chatting with Steve and Anthony along with David, because this is the first time we've done a full season of like a party podcast. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But also, I just want to know what the goats are for. That's really all I want to know.
Yes. Hopefully that's the first question that they answer in the first episode.
Exactly.
Don't make it a lost thing where they string it out until the end and then they never tell us about the polar bear.
Look. As I said in our preview, Lost was an incredibly satisfying ending, and I think they should aim to emulate that.
Okay. Agree to disagree.
With no sarcasm added.
With no sarcasm. Some people really were satisfied by it. But anyway, anyone who's interested in that Severance podcast, it is in a different feed from this one, nor is it in the regular Lorehounds feed. So you'll find that link in the show notes. But yeah, John, there's something else that's different about you other than not actually physically being Luke. our usual spoiler policy here. We're going to do a quick update. We're going to keep the spoiler policy the same. Basically, if it's aired on screen or if it's a book story point related to something that's aired on screen, we're free to talk about it this episode. And we will not talk about any plot points from the books related to elements of the story that have not yet been shown on screen. So no future book spoilers here, at least in the main part of this episode. However, unlike Luke, John, you have read the books.
I mean, I blame you for that.
It is my fault. Yes, I gladly take the blame for all the book readers listening too. I hope that I did my part there. But yeah, so it means we're not quite as free to make wild speculations. But I know it's been a while, so it's not like you have all the details memorized, right?
Right. Yeah, I haven't read them since right after season 1. So I'm still a little hazy on like the specifics of what happens, but I remember the main arcs. I remember big characters, big character moments. So I can't be like, this is what's going to happen in the end, because I know what's going to happen in the end.
Right. Yeah, but still, despite that, they're keeping us on our toes.
They are.
For example, in this episode, no one who I expected to die did, and instead we got a surprise. Yeah. But yeah, since John does know the major plot points that are coming, and it's the finale and all, this week there's going to be an extra book spoiler section after the outro music plays. So I want to make sure that those of you who don't want to be spoiled have plenty of time to get out of here. And of course, this is different and in no way impinges upon the usual spoiler casts, of which there will actually be 2 this week for the finale. So Abby and I will be talking first about, you'll get a regular spoiler cast about all the general book changes throughout this episode, with a special focus on Juliet's trip back, all the logistics, what exactly happened in the aftermath in Silo 18. And then a week later, you're going to get a second finale spoiler cast all about the characters that we met in that surprising final scene at the end. What's the situation there? What do we think is their future? And the other people who play an important role in their lives, and how does that all play into what is going on in the silos that we know so far? And about that Pez dispenser too. So I'll talk more about what else is coming to both the book club and this feed after we've talked through the episode. But before we get into our scene-by-scene analysis, John, since we haven't heard from you yet this season, how have you enjoyed the season overall?
I think the first half of the season was not as strong as the second half, but I binged the second half this week because I had not been keeping up after episode 4. So I've just recently watched all of it. I think everything happening in, I can never remember which numbers
18
are to which
is
silo.
the one that you're enjoying, you said.
18 is the main one, right? Okay, 18. Everything happening in Silo 18, I'm loving. I really love all of it. I think it's Silo 17, the other one, correct?
Yeah.
So Silo 17, I think that dragged a little bit, but it wasn't like super detrimental. It was just, I thought we could have tightened up some of those plots around. I did feel like they were trying to just like milk having Rebecca Ferguson. And that's, I get it. Like I'd probably do the same thing if I were running the show. But yeah, I think overall really successful season 2. And I think that they had a really tough job ahead of them when they divided it like this, because a lot of the big moments and big reveals in the Wool book, the first book, are in season 1, are in the first half. And so they didn't save a lot of their like money shots for season 2. But they've done a really good job building tension and making enough changes to keep it really interesting for book readers, and also just focusing on the characters in a way that makes the mystery, important, but not necessarily what you need to hang on to every week.
Yeah. I've been surprised by some certain plot elements, reveals that they've held back this season. But well, that's spoiler cast talk, and I'm sure we'll get that in season 3. But how would you compare this season to season 1?
I think season 1 was stronger, but again, I don't think it's that like the writing was worse or the acting was worse or anything. I think it's just they had a more substantial plot to get through in season 1. They didn't have as much of the Wool book left for season 2. And I think that had they done this whole plot in one season, it would have felt rushed. So I get why they did it that way. But also, like, I just think season 1 was stronger. And I think perhaps I enjoyed it a little bit more because I was watching it without reading the books. I almost wish I had not read the books until after I saw the whole show, because I was really enjoying watching the mystery unfold. But I'm still really liking season 2. I'm loving watching all the characters come to life. All the acting is A plus. Even the side characters I thought had a better chance to shine this season.
Yeah.
Last
Absolutely.
season it was really like, because we were shifting between Holston and the mayor, and then Juliet and George and all this, we had to keep moving from like main character to main character without a lot of chance for the side characters to shine. But this season, like, everybody feels like they're part of what's going on, and that's cool.
Yeah, I may prefer this season slightly just because it went more unexpected places. It did diverge more from the book, and I'm not like always like, yay, do your own thing, but it kept me guessing. But I think the best way it diverged is those side characters, as you said. Like a lot of my favorite moments were with Meadows or Camille, or and these are not characters that exist in the book. So, and that
Right.
freaking Pez dispenser.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's even the characters who do show up in the books are vastly changed and fleshed
Right.
out in the show, which is nice. I'm
Right.
sure Hugh Howey loves to see. I mean, I remember when the Expanse guys were talking about making the show, they talked about like the opportunity to sort of take a second look at your ideas and see what you would have done differently in hindsight. And I think Hugh Howey's probably having a blast with that.
Yeah, well, he's already said multiple times that, like, if he were to go back and rewrite the book now, Walker would definitely be a woman because he can't see that character any other way now.
Oh yeah, that was an amazing change. Much better.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense with Juliet, but also they just nailed the casting. So
Absolutely.
So what were your standout episodes or characters or storylines this season?
I can't pick out a standout episode because I binged it and I don't know which
fair.
episode
They all
was
blur
which.
together. Okay, storylines, characters.
Storylines, characters. I mean, I think Lucas and Bernard really is the shining moment of this. Lucas has a much more interesting arc in the show than the book, I think. And I really enjoyed watching him decode Salvador Quinn's journal. What was it? Diary, journal, code, letter.
Right.
His thing.
His letter code. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that it was the Wizard of Oz. That felt very, very Wicked, since we're in the year of Wicked.
Yeah, a lot of Wizard of Oz is here in general.
Yeah, right. It's everywhere. Yeah. And I also thought, as much as I thought that they could have done a little bit less of it, I think that they did a really good job bringing Solo to life. I mean, he was both sympathy. Like, I felt badly for him while being scared of him, and that is exactly what you needed Solo to be, and they really nailed that.
Yeah, I mean, they just absolutely nailed the casting. Like, as soon as I heard the casting, I was like, oh my God, yes, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, how did any of us ever think of anything else? Although I have to say, with Lucas, well, I've talked about it plenty on here. I do like what they did with his whole, how he became Bernard's shadow, but I do miss other story elements.
Okay.
That I hope will come back next season. So I feel like we haven't gotten full Lucas yet. Yeah.
I think we're in Lucas Prime right now.
We're in Lucas Prime. All right. So I have to ask you, how would you rank these 3 experiences in terms of which you would most want to do to least want to do? So grab some beers from your own fridge with Sims, as Marnes did before he died. Have a home-cooked dinner with VR night with Bernard. Or go hard drive hunting with the new judicial goon-in-chief Amundsen.
Oh, none of the above. I don't know. Here's the thing. I think both Sims and Bernard are like perfectly pleasant company if they like you. In good time. Like, are we in good times right now? Is this just nothing bad is happening in Silo?
I mean, Meadows certainly didn't expect the ending of her dinner.
That's right. Yeah, I think. All right, I'm gonna pick Sims because I think he's the least likely to kill me, to be honest.
Okay.
And like he can be chill when he likes you. He's chill. That's what I'm going with. And Amundsen, I don't trust at all. He is just whoever is paying him at the moment.
Yeah. It's hard to tell what's going on with Amundsen, but I think in a really interesting way because, again, non-readers, this is a new character. So, All right, how would I do it? Let's see. I guess hard drive hunting with Amundsen is the safest choice, and I know what a hard drive looks like, so I already have a leg up on him. So,
Fair enough.
which might be actually dangerous. The other two, they led to death for other characters in the silo. So if I have to choose between those, I'll take Bernard's home cooked dinner and VR experience. At least, I get some good food and culture before I go.
So just flip our orders, basically.
Yeah, I guess so.
I know that Jean just heard me say I would have beers with Sims, and he would go, "No!" I see him yelling about Sims in the channel.
Yeah. That's his least favorite, the entire Sims family. And I'm going to do some Camille defending again. So he's going to yell at me.
I definitely get Camille. Like, I completely understand where she's coming from. Even though I think that she's very morally gray, I understand. Yeah. Like, you play both sides when it's your kid's life on the line. Like, I get it.
Mm-hmm. And it's not like she's done anything horrible now. I honestly, the thing I was most mad at her about was lying to her husband, but that seems sorted now. Although, we'll talk about it when we get to it, but some new tensions introduced in that relationship.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Camille, you can stay.
Yeah. All right. Shall we go into the fire?
Let's do it.
Your regularly scheduled breakdown will begin in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, God, it's the safeguard.
Did you hear Luke's theory about the safeguard that they would pop the top, which it's not something else, but it is about killing the silo. So he was pretty on the money there.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Okay, so season 2, episode 10, Into the Fire. The finale, by the way, we didn't mention 2 more seasons confirmed. So that's a relief, right? They're going to
and I think that's perfect.
Right.
That's perfect for the season, for the story, rather.
Yeah, that was always their plan. So, but this season 2 finale was aired on Thursday or Friday, January 17th or 18th, depending on where you live, 2025. And the writer for this one was Eric Avellino, which is interesting because I think this is like his first writing credit, but he directed episodes 3 and 4 of this season. And so, he directed Solo. The first episode started mixing the storylines, and the Harmonium, the one where Meadows died.
So he just likes killing off characters.
Maybe they bring him in for the death scenes.
Yeah.
And the director was, again, Amber Templemore, who previously known as half of Bert and Birdie last season. This season, she directed episodes 5 and 8 through 10. So one of the most recurrent directors in the season. Shall we check in first with Luke's thoughts?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I can't be with you on this week's podcast. And I'm going to preface everything I'm saying by saying that I had to watch the episode on my phone, lying in bed, which is probably not the best way to watch it. And some of the action sequences were, as a consequence, a bit difficult to follow, but good grief did a lot happen in that episode. So Daddy Dr. Nichols has finally gone to the big maternity ward in the sky. Bernard is dead? ? We kind of know what's going on, but we don't know who put all this in train or why any of it's happening. It's a really good setup to season 3. Can't wait to see what's happening. Enjoyed the episode. The bit with the family Sims at the end, it was really powerful and really interesting. I think the theory that this is all a massive social experiment it definitely got some support with the conclusion of that episode, because clearly someone or something higher than the humans in the silo is pulling the strings behind the scenes. Now, when people have speculated on that in the feedback episodes, it's been largely, are there aliens involved? I'm starting to wonder whether it might actually be the Singularity, some form of like super AI that is linked to the algorithm. If this is the last time we see Tim Robbins in Silo, he's given us 2 seasons of outstanding performances as Bernard Holland. I feel if he is dead, it's appropriate to at least once use his full name. I guess we're going to have to rename the Simsnard scale as well. Yeah, I'm going to have to watch that episode again properly on a larger screen. But my initial thoughts are, I know more than I did going into the episode, but I don't know enough. I want to know what's going on. And more importantly, I want to know why the Pez dispenser is so important. Why must it always come back to the Pez?
So, John, thoughts on what Luke said, thoughts on the episode overall?
I too want to know what the Pez dispenser is for, so I'm with you there, Luke. Yeah, I was really surprised at what's his name, Jorah Mormont dying. Mr. Nichols, Dr. Nichols.
Dr. Nichols. Give the man his due.
I know. He earned his degree from the Hard Knock School of Silo.
I mean, this character, I'll say, we'll talk about it. I'll probably bring this up and lament about it over and over. But I did not expect him to die. He does not die at this point in the books. There are other people who die in the finale who are just out there roaming around, fine as daisies. Like, I did not expect him to go. And I don't think it was the wrong decision, but I'm still upset about it.
Yeah, I think it was fine. I think it's more likely that either he didn't want to do it or they didn't want to pay for his pay scale.
Yeah.
Because I think he could have died later in the story. It would have been fine. Like,
yeah.
But I'm sure he's an expensive actor.
Right. And maybe they weren't sure what more to do with him because at this point in the books, he hasn't even made up with Juliet. So, and then he kind of just winds up being like a helpful supporter of her. And that's great to have. But, they're maybe like, we have so many cast members. We don't know how to keep his plot continuing to be interesting and still pay attention to these other plots.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Do you think that Bernard is dead?
Yes.
You do?
I do. I think Bernard's dead, and I think he shielded Juliet with his body. And that's not a book spoiler. That's just what I think.
No, that's what you think. Yeah. I would think that would make sense, but just the fact that it was, when I heard your voice in my head when I saw this, it is what you call the worst kind of cliffhanger.
Yep.
Where you will explain your thing about cliffhangers.
I don't think you should ever have a cliffhanger where the question is, did they survive or not? I think the cliffhanger needs to be, all right, this is what happened. How are other people going to react about this shocking thing? That's what we can do. For example, Severance, a shocking thing happened in the finale. Can't wait to find out what happens this season. But we weren't in question of like, did anyone die at the end of that season? And so I do wish, this is the one time I'm going to complain about it because I don't want this to like spoil my takes on the episode because I really liked the episode. But I do think that it's a bummer that they had to go with that kind of cheap cliffhanger of who lived in that room. And I also, to defend my theory of Bernard shielded her, I think that's a perfect end for the character because
I think
Bernard
it should be that.
Is constantly making moral compromises and doing whatever he thinks needs to be done for the silo. And he just heard out of Juliet's mouth, I might have a way to save this silo beyond what you know how to do. And so in his head, her life is more valuable than his now to the silo. And I think he would sacrifice himself for that. I think he thought before now, I am the best one to save this silo. When he had given up, she comes in with the Hail Mary and he's like, all right, let's give them a shot.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that is the way it should be. But what my worry is because they didn't actually show the death, because they, cut to black, that always makes me think that it means that the answer is no, that character didn't die, because otherwise that's the most, if they just come back at the start of the new season, they're like, and well, he's dead now, then it's like the most, like it's Tim Robbins. You can't just have him fall dead off screen like that. You know what I mean?
We've done it. We've done it in other big shows.
I don't know.
I'm thinking of Stannis the Manus. I think we can do it. I think we could do it. I'd do it.
I don't know. He's a bigger character even than Stannis was. And I give these, anyway, I love the Song of Ice and Fire world, but I don't always love everything about the adaptations thereof.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
far. Okay, well, let me get my most important take out of the way. I know everyone's worried about me, but don't worry. I'm okay holding up in the wake of absolutely zero news about Danny Bly after them bringing him up half a dozen times this season without telling us what happened to him. So I thank you all for your empathy through this troubling time. But
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, Lucas, the final tease this episode and the promise of 2 more seasons will get me through this rough patch. So
There you go.
it is an interesting thing this show does. Like they did it with Sandy last season where she just disappeared halfway through the season and then she came back and was an important character as I thought she might be. So I don't know. I'm guessing like it just seems like the cast is so large. They don't always know how to juggle them all.
Yeah. Maybe that's why they're, getting rid of Dr. Nichols, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly what I was thinking. Yeah. But yeah, I did really like the episode also. I think this was a really interesting episode for me to rewatch because even though I suspected some of the things, some of the people were working together, it was actually shocking how many people were working together. And so going back and rewatching it, knowing that, it just, changes a lot of the interactions, especially in the first half.
Yeah, I just want to say, because I didn't compliment the show enough, I don't think, in my little hot take. They got me with the twist. Like, I
Which one?
did not see that coming. Walker's twist.
Mm.
I didn't see that coming from a mile away. They had me fooled that she was totally, like, just being kind of cowardly.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I thought that Knox had, like, given her an out to tell the truth and maybe suspected her. I thought maybe Knox had a secret plan on the side. So I was looking for, like, a different subversion. But the fact that she was in on it the whole time was amazing. And I loved that. The maiden hand signals really did it for me.
Yeah, well, so that was the cool thing too, is that I think it was in like episode 2 that Shirley mentioned offhand about like, oh, and I'm teaching some of the hand signals to so and so, and I clocked it and I brought it up on the podcast, like, oh, that's going to come back later, and then they never brought it up again, so I completely forgot about it until we had this finale reveal, and I'm like, oh, you did see that at the start of the season.
Yeah, I didn't remember that even. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. What did you think of that final scene? I mean, we have to tread carefully with the book spoilers around that one, but I did not expect we got 2 big castings.
Clearly DC, based on the buildings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we saw the Capitol building.
And the fact that he was a congressman.
Mm-hmm.
And the press going on fake dates with Congress people to get leads. I think that's something that really happens, and so that's all I can think about. I think that's all I could say with that.
I'll just say I'm very happy with the castings.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think it was good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I liked it.
Well, okay, let's jump into the episode itself. As usual, we're going to talk about one plot arc at a time, grouping scenes together that happen at different times in the episode so that it's easier to talk about them. So let's start with what's going on in Silo 18, where we've got some plans within plans. This episode opens on an anxious Dr. Peter Nichols, Ian Glenn, checking his watch, Juliet's old watch that Bernard gave to him after she was sent out to clean. We'll find out soon enough why the episode opens on him. And yeah, I was so excited when it opened on him because he wasn't even in the last episode. And I love this character, but yeah, I not like this. This is not what I was expecting.
No, not like that.
Not
That's
like
funny.
this. Yeah. Like I said, it's very different from the book. So I was shocked. There were 3 other different characters I worried about dying based on the books, but I'm not going to say who they were because maybe that'll happen. So it was just, book readers, we don't have much of an advantage, to tell you the truth, just on like the big things.
Yeah, that's true. That's really true. Like, again, we know where this is going, and I think that's part of why some of the Solo and Juliet scenes were a little dragging for me, because that was less different from the books. But Silo 18 had me on my toes the whole time. I didn't know what was going on at the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I wasn't sure how it was all going to come to a head here, but Yeah, we got Shirley Remy Milner with Knox, Shay McRae by her side, telling Dr. Nichols that his daughter may be alive. Some IT hotshot claiming to be Bernard's shadow, which is obviously Lucas, Avi Nash, told her this. And Dr. Nichols says that a lot of people say Juliet's alive, but this is the first time he's believed it, hearing it from them. He seems weary, having taken on the down deep medical duties, understaffed, and running low on even the most basic supplies. But Knox wants to pull him away from all that for something he feels is even more important than being the sole doctor below the barricade: war. Bum, bum,
Mm.
bum.
I think
Yeah.
I think he sacrificed himself just to get a nap in.
He's like, I shall find rest. And then Shane, wait, did I say Shane? Am I saying Knox?
Oh, was that the
Sorry.
actor's name?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. By the way, I don't know if you know this, but like everyone has a crush on Shay McRae this season on
Oh,
Knox.
okay. All right.
Noxie is truly Foxy.
I see it.
It
I see
started
it.
as a joke, but now it's a thing. Yeah.
I get it. Foxy Noxy, I get it.
And then Knox meets with Shirley, Martha Walker, Harriet Walter, Sheriff Billings, played by Chinaza Uche, and Deputy Hank, Billy Postlethwaite, to plan. And we'll find out later that this entire exchange, plus Knox's conversation with Martha at the end of the last episode, is really a cover for the real conversation taking place in hand signals they've been using all of their lives and can casually work into their usual gestures and mannerisms, knowing that Bernard is watching on the camera. So what they let Bernard hear is, we're going to storm the barricade in 2 waves as a diversion so we can blow up the generator. What they're really planning, we're going to distract you into investigating the generator so we can blow up a chunk of the stairs. And Knox says they need to buy themselves 3 hours of distraction to pull this off, and Billings says he'll go with the first wave. So yeah, the hand signal thing was really well done because when we go back and watch these previous episodes, we can see all these things that do just look like, I don't know, just normal gesturing. But
Yeah, I'm
actually, you
scratching
can
my
see,
ear, right?
yeah. You can see they're purposeful now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Like I said, they got me. They got me. I
Mhm.
had no idea. When she was talking to him, I thought it was just like a moment of defeat for him. And I did like how they also faked it out with the countdown. She's like 5,
Mhm.
4, 3, 2, 1. And Bernard, I mean, Tim Robbins, he
Ugh,
sold that laughter right there. My
yeah.
God, was
His
that?
shit-eating glee. Yeah.
It was beautiful. It was hilarious. It was terrifying. It was everything.
Hmm. But question, at this point, does Billings know about the hand signals or not? Because like he seems taken aback when they say they want to blow up the generator, but then he seems ready to roll with it.
I don't know. I mean, they can talk outside of her room, so he probably knew what the real plan was
Maybe that's
at
true.
some point. I think Knox was like, "All right, now that we're out of there."
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah. He probably warned him going in, like, we're going to say some crazy stuff, but don't worry. We're
Right.
just feeding this
Right.
to Bernard. Yeah. Yeah. So I was expecting the bridge outside IT to be blown up because I thought that's why it was blown up in Silo 17, because, it's the same set that they needed to reuse. So I thought that that's
Mm.
why they had planned, they kept saying that the order says to always treat every rebellion the same, which is not how it happens in the books. So I don't know. This looked like a different part of the set because it was like the stairs instead of the bridge, or right? Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely they knocked out the stairs.
I think it might have even been VFX, but
Yeah. Could
yeah.
be. Could be.
But in the books, by the way, the only bridge blowing up happens in that rebellion 135 years ago in Silo 18. So it's
Mm.
references to that. I'm going to take it as. And yeah, we also got an answer to Chekhov's gunpowder from all season, but no more Mark Chambers. Mark Chambers was the metal shop overseer in the steampunk wheelchair. I thought that he would be back to deal with the whole. This is another thing where there's like a disappearing character.
Yeah, that's really weird. Seems like he would have been applicable here.
Yeah, presumably he'll be back in season 3 because George Robinson is, after Sex Education especially, he's like a recognizable face too.
Hmm.
Can't just usher him off. But Bernard is, of course, watching his favorite channel, Marthaverse, all day. So he takes all this in and then jumps into action, telling Amundsen, Christian Ochoa, Lavernia to take the raiders and storm the Down Deep, arrest all the rebels, and secure the generator room now. The raiders chain up a heavy barrel on a pendulum system, swinging it out over the stairs and then back to knock down the barricade, taking out a poor Down Deep guard with it. The other guard books it, warning Lucas running the other way to run, which Lucas ignores. But we're going to pick up Lucas's whole story from the beginning separately in a little bit. But yeah, the guy at the barrier, he's like, why are they all running away from the barrier? I'm like, I don't know, but that's a signal that you better get out of there too. What are you doing?
Yeah, I not a lot of common sense over there. Yeah, I mean, I completely lost my train of thought. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I had a point at one point that I lost. There. It's gone.
There.
Go on.
But yeah, I mean, it's just another death that, like, I was just surprised actually at how few deaths there were. I think that this and Dr. Nichols were the only two this episode, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's possible that some people were dying in like the fighting, but there wasn't a lot of fighting. I will say, and I'm sure you edited it out a minute ago where I said I lost my train of thought, but I found it again. I will say, I think that, Knox did not expect this plan to work as well as it did. I think this worked way better because of Bernard's send everybody order. His panic really bit him in the butt.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess that was the idea, is they, I don't know, figured he would act in the extreme, but maybe they got even luckier than they expected.
Yeah, I mean, if I were Knox, I would be like, all right, they'll send a lot of guards down there because they'll be concerned. Yeah. I wouldn't think they would send all of them because they send all of them.
Right.
That's all the raiders. I mean, so everybody's trapped below there. That's a way bigger win. Right. And he's by the control center now.
Right. But yeah, that's gonna set up something interesting for next season. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's gonna change some big things for next season versus the books, where because I was actually, when they were all gathering down there, I was wondering if things were going to happen in a different order, but now I think that things are just going to happen completely differently altogether.
Yeah, and that's fun. I think that'll be a lot of fun for us to follow along.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, overall, much less bloody rebellion than the books. If you want to hear all the gory, heart-wrenching details, then you see the spoiler cast on the Wool Rebellion, if you have that access. So Shirley alerts the others, the raiders are coming, and Knox tells Billings and Dr. Nichols to get out of there and to get ready to lead the team blow up the stairs, as he and Shirley prep to face and stall the raiders with a team of down deepers, arming themselves with pipes, tools, and other simple weapons. Billings, meanwhile, ducks into an apartment where his wife Kathleen, Caitlin Zaz, is hiding with her infant daughter Claire. He barely has time to warn her the raiders are coming when they knock down the door and arrest him violently. It's Jean, Karika Sanani, the one who reluctantly tattled on him when he went to poke around Juliet's apartment last season, and who this season was the only raider who refused to say she heard Juliet say she wanted to go outside when she was arrested in the cornfield. When push came to shove, she apparently picked her side, or did she?
I wonder how many double agents or fair weather friends we have here.
I mean, I guess she's not a fair weather friend because she was loyal to Billings, but she had me going for a minute. I was like, how dare you? I thought you were one of the good ones.
Yeah, I too was like, oh, come on.
Yeah. But I mean, I was thinking, like, unlike the deputies, everyone around her in the Raider team would be telling her to fall in line. She has a work culture of obedience.
Right.
And then she has that line, like, it's not personal, Paul, just doing my job like you taught me. And I guess in retrospect, the like you taught me part was supposed to clue him in she's on his side.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, what I like about Billings, and I think he's a really interesting character, is he kind of reminds me of like a faith deconstructionist. Do you know what I mean? Is like he was really caught up in like a fundamentalism and not a mean-spirited fundamentalism, not one where he's like hating anybody, but he really did believe like the pact is what we have to follow to the letter.
Yeah.
And he's been forced to sort of deconstruct his faith here. and reconstruct it in a new way. Like what does it actually mean to be for the silo?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me ask you something I asked Luke and Abby, and they didn't see it the same way that I do. But do you feel like he and some others sometimes have an almost religious devotion to the pact and the idea of the
Yes,
founders? And yeah.
absolutely. Well, don't you think that we have people in the United States who are like almost religious about the founders of the United States who were just people, right? Like
Hmm.
they were people who wrote a document, and I think we have a lot of that kind of stuff with historical figures.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true. It makes sense, especially in a way, it's easy to mythologize in that space where they don't know, they know nothing. Jon Snow.
And they created your whole world, right? Like they
Mm-hmm.
created your whole
Exactly.
world. They
Mm-hmm.
gave you the book that you have to live by. Like a lot of what we believe is instilled with us at a young age, and it sounds like his parents did a real good job making him memorize that pact.
Yeah. Or you can be like Juliet and just say, curse them all.
Right.
But yeah, but the Raiders are so over the top in the show. So Gene punches Paul, I guess, to, make a showing of it. And then they arrest Kathleen and the baby. And I said, thankfully, restraining themselves from punching said baby, at least. But definitely not from jabbing a baton into the face of snarkily on brand Patrick Kennedy, Rick Gomez, when they go to arrest him. And by now, Knox and Shirley's group has also been subdued and arrested, and they're all marched up the stairs and thrown together in that giant cafeteria cage that Bernard told the deputies to construct last episode. So, satisfied he has his entire naughty list locked up, Bernard tells Watcher Diego Obvious / Ambitious, Aki Kotabe, to restore radio communications throughout the silo. He takes that 18 key fob out of his pocket and looks at it and looks dismayed that it's not lighting up red and buzzing as it's done when things got bad in the past. He asks Diego whether he's been able to locate Lucas Kyle yet and gets a no. And so this is, again, this is the key to the server room, the one that Sims said he wanted to get his hand on. And well, yeah, Robert Sims' new job has left him on the sidelines of this whole conflict. And he and his wife, Camille, so this is Common and Alexandria Riley, they watch from a landing. We find out what Billings asked last episode for them to deliver a message, presumably to the deputies. Common's worried they picked the wrong side, but my girl Camille is as usual cool as a cucumber. She says there's still hope for the message to pay off, but in the meantime, they should make use of this distraction. She'll get their son while Robert finds a way into the vault. And yeah, so you said Camille's an interesting character. She's got a lot of defenders, a lot of haters. So Luke and I, we always do the Sims-Nard scale, where 1 is a morally upright person on the side of good, and 10 is a Sims / Bernard. Where do you think Camille falls on the Sims-Nard scale?
Ooh, that's tough because I don't think you can. I think she's amoral.
Hmm.
I think she is really just surviving. She's a survivalist. She wants to keep her kid alive. She wants to keep her family alive. And I don't know, if I have to pick one, I'd probably pick like a 6 because she does. No, you know what? I disagree with myself. I'm gonna put her at like a 3 because really, like, who has she really hurt so much?
Mm-hmm.
She
Yeah,
really, so far, she's only just saved wrongfully accused people.
right. And she might not have done it for the right reasons, but
Like the worst thing she's done is lie to her husband. That's
yeah,
like pretty. That's why I didn't give her a 1, but it's not nearly as bad as relative to everybody else in this silo.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, see? The Camille Hive, rise up. Yeah, so I mean, I think that I don't understand all the hate she gets. I think it's just like people don't trust her, which is fair.
It's Skylar syndrome.
There are people who are afraid of her in the silo. We've seen that, so
Yeah,
that's
I
true.
mean,
That's
look,
the thing.
she had a job that is definitely one of the more morally dubious jobs in the silo. At the same time, I'm judging her based on her actions now that I've seen, and I haven't seen anything that's like depraved. Whereas I have seen
No,
that from both Sims and Bernard.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I agree. I would place her low in the scale too, maybe a 4. Yeah. All right. Well, this is a good spot to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to discuss the jailhouse tango. So Lucas apparently found a ladder to climb out of the bottom of the digger room, finally giving us that one shot we got of him in the season trailer. And John, what do you think we missed down there? So we had him, it cut away after he was asked, do you know what the safeguard is? He said yes. It cut away, and then we see him on the ladder. Like, do you think he must have obviously heard more from the algorithm voice, right? That we didn't see?
I think so, because he knew the manner of killing, and that I don't think he could have figured out the manner of killing. I think he had figured out that the silo would be killed from
Yeah.
external factors, but that was it.
Well, I'm wondering, we also didn't see part of that Salvador Quinn code. Like they blocked out part of the middle, didn't make it visible on the screen. So it could have been in there as well.
No, yeah, that's true. Can I ask you? He said that, or it said that I didn't talk to George Wilkins.
Right.
Why?
Because George Wilkins was not a head of IT or Shadow 2. And then George Wilkins was arrested and killed or died.
So this AI thing, or whatever it is,
The algorithm, it's called.
The algorithm, okay. The algorithm, like, alerted Bernard to go arrest him, or alerted it still would have been Bernard, even then.
Yeah, I think that's what I assume.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Yeah, I did worry about Lukas. I said in the last episode I worried about him having to climb out with a rope, so I'm glad he found that ladder, but it looks like that was rough going as well.
Yeah, when he looked down, I was like, that was real. That was
real.
It's the same thing as Doctor Who. Like, living in this silo is an awful lot of running and climbing and
Yeah, you would think everyone would be really fit, but it's also, that is a difference with they do a lot more jetpacking in the silo in the TV show, which I get. It's a thing that TV shows do in general, and I suppose it's makes more sense to jetpack up and down the silo than across Westeros or whatever. But
yeah, like you could work up a sweat and get up there in a couple hours if you needed to.
Yeah. And I think it definitely depends. You know, they showed us that in the first season, Marnes and Johns, it took them a lot longer because they're older and not used to it. But someone like Juliet, at least, you know, I'm sure she could run up and down 5 times in a day.
Right. And Lukas, he's popping on his workout mix. He's fine.
Yeah. I mean, he's young enough. He's, it's not like he's Mr. Runner Jock Man, but, he'll be fine.
Right.
So when Lukas climbs out of the hole in the digger room wall, exhausted, he is accosted by the guy who stopped him at the gate when he entered the Down Deep last episode. And this guy asks to see his badge and then takes it. But Lukas has no interest in going with him to be locked up as requested by Shirley. He's got mysterious door-based trauma to deal with and a message to deliver to Bernard, despite clearly being told not to. So he bolts. And I love he kicks the guy in the nuts and then goes, "Oh, fuck, man, sorry." I just think Avinash just absolutely nails the Lukas personality and mannerisms.
I really didn't understand why he thought it would be better to, like, look like they were having a serious conversation. Like, wouldn't it be serious if you were telling him that everyone's gonna die?
I mean, they were having a serious conversation, yeah.
Exactly. I'm like, okay, just do it.
Yeah.
But
with this, when he ran away, kicked this guy in the nuts and ran away, do you think he overreacted?
What? No.
I think Shirley should have sent a better diplomat if she wanted to talk to Lukas instead of saying, "I'm going to lock you up."
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think that that the Down Deep was treating him very well. At the same time, how many people have they had that were just kind of snakes from IT?
Yeah. I mean, I can see why they wouldn't trust him.
Yeah,
and Shirley only kind of does because he said stuff about Jules.
Right, Cheryl.
That's
as far as nicknames go, it's a hard one to say.
I would never call her Cheryl, but it does sound natural coming from Knox.
Yeah, right. He makes it work. It's the mustache, really.
Does he have a mustache? Well, some like
it's the I don't know. It's something. It's the foxiness.
Exactly. Just the inherent foxiness is bristling out of his face. So this is the point. Lukas kicks the guy in the nuts and then he goes running up the stairs. And this is when he runs smack into a bunch of raiders who have just knocked down the barricade. And he doesn't have his big blue badge energy anymore since the other guy took it. So they just knock him down and arrest him and throw him in with the rebels in the giant cafeteria cage that Bernard told all the deputies to make. And that's where Shirley finds him and confronts him about kicking Randy in the nuts and demands that he tell her what he found in the down deep. But he just smiles and says it doesn't matter now. So, yeah, first of all, Shirley, if you wanted to know what was down there, maybe you shouldn't have left him there alone last week and been like, good luck, try not to die.
Yeah, that was not a great move. I
No.
bet he wasn't even down there that long. Like,
Yeah, not the best Shirley moment.
you could like see him from where you were, you know?
Yeah. I guess she's busy with all this rebelling, but still.
Yeah. They did have a plan to execute.
But yeah, and he says it seems like he really wanted to get up to Bernard, and then suddenly when he's arrested, he says it doesn't matter now. So I'm wondering if, like, he was told that if fighting kicked off, that the safeguard would be triggered.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, that would be true. That might be true. Or like, you know, if the door opens, it'll be triggered, and they were all going up, so maybe he assumed that's what was going to happen.
Yeah. Maybe. And they weren't going to try. And then the deputies pull Paul Billings, Shirley, Walker, and Knox out of cafeteria jail and eventually reveal that they're on their side. They got Paul's message and they want to help, but they have to be tricksy about it at first because they're being watched. So what they do is shove them into a smaller cell, the usual type of jail cell where Carla, Claire Perkins, is waiting. Though Mayor Holland apparently ordered Martha and Carla to be kept in separate cells, but Amundsen steps forward and calls that out as bullshit, outing Martha as a spy in front of the others and setting her and Carla free, according to the terms of their agreement. Knox pretends to be surprised. Carla is livid, which seems genuine, and she refuses to go anywhere with Martha, preferring to stay in jail with the others. Martha says she has to see Bernard and is taken to him. In a bit, Deputy Cairns, Angela Yo, sends the raiders in the deputy's station with her out to check the situation and get some food. And she opens a cell, releasing Carla, Knox, Shirley, and Billings. And yeah, so at this point in the books, the big turn was Billings. Billings was the one who was, I don't know, kind of just laying low and obeying Bernard. And then when it came down to it, turned on him. But he already turned a long time ago in the show, so I guess they needed to up the ante, and now they're like, oh, the deputies turn. TV rules.
I did like it. I did like watching everybody, you know, the Avengers really assemble there.
Right.
Against Thanos, that is Bernard.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and man, what a heartbreaking scene. Because again, I was fooled by Walker's act. And so I thought this was a genuine thing of like, well, wow, how bitter is that you lose the person again in your effort to save them? And then it flipped, and honestly, I loved it. This is how you exceed my expectations instead of subverting them. I think this is a really great example of when I try to say that.
Yeah. No, it was cool to see. This was an episode where all the pieces come together in the end, which is why I say it has such a strong rewatch value. But oh man, Carla says in the scene, I hope he sends you out to clean. Like, damn, Carla, that was really cold.
Yeah. I mean,
she was trying to save her.
She was trying to save her. At the same time, she got like everybody they've ever loved locked up and probably going out to clean. And that's rough too. I get that.
Yeah. That's true. Well, speaking of rough things, it's time to talk about the big bada boom. Dr. Nichols is trying to get out of the down deep with a body covered on a stretcher. Someone Nichols says sustained a critical injury in the fighting and will die if not brought to an operating medical facility with proper supplies. When a raider tries to stop him, Jean steps in to say she'll escort him. And when a radio report says they found the gunpowder, the distracted raider waves the two of them and the two people in raider gear carrying the stretcher through. In their haste, the departing group doesn't notice a timer falling out of the stretcher onto the ground, and they leave without it. In the generator room, the raiders find barrels that seem to be full of gunpowder strapped to the generator, but once they find the fuse, it's not connected to anything. This was all just a big distraction. They radio Bernard to tell him. At the same time, up on the stairs between 92 and 90, Dr. Nichols says they need to stop and tells Jean to take the other two raiders and scout ahead, leaving behind the stretcher. Pete opens it, revealing a not critically injured Hank inside. Everyone is checking their watches and clocks, waiting for the right moment, but then Dr. Nichols realizes they've lost the timer. The bomb will have to be triggered manually. He gives Juliet's watch to Hank and says, "If she's alive, you give her this. Tell her I love her. Tell her to never stop fighting. Tell her to never stop being herself, because her whole life, she's been perfect, just the way she is." And he tells Hank to get out of there and leave him to it. He'll trigger the bomb himself, and Hank reluctantly leaves. So, yeah, genuinely gone too soon. But this ruse with the stretcher, I had to do a Leo pointing meme because it's definitely a callback to Second Shift in the second book shift, the middle of the book, basically. During that prior rebellion that happened 140 years ago, there was a character named Mission who was smuggled upstairs in a body bag. And Abby actually, she was hoping for a reference to this specific moment from the book. So, I hope that she enjoys this when she sees this.
No, that's fun.
Yeah. But just it's a miserable way to travel. Just to quote a short quote from the book, Mission felt buried alive. He fell into an uncomfortable trance, the bag growing hot and slick as it trapped its heat and exhalations. Part of him feared he would pass out in there, and Joel and Lynn would discover him dead. Those are the people carrying him. Part of him hoped they would.
But the real crime here was containing those luscious locks of hair.
Yeah. Hank's follicles must be free and not get too sweaty.
That's right. That's right. It's a very delicate ecosystem. You can't disturb it so much.
Yeah. No, it's true. I know from someone who also has a case of British hair. it gets limp. So, meanwhile, Martha has been telling a bemused Bernard a story about the hand signals the Down Deepers all use to communicate over the noise of the generator. She lets him in on their secret, that they've been having entirely different conversations than the ones he's been hearing. She does a dramatic countdown and nothing happens. And Amundsen pops in to say the bomb's been neutralized. And Martha doesn't realize he's talking about the decoy in the basement that's never been connected in the first place, and she thinks her team failed. Bernard laughs in relief and goes into super smug overdrive, but then Nichols does the deed. Big bada boom. So, okay, I have to ask you to rank this episode's surprises. So, what is your favorite surprise to not as favorite surprise? So, the secret hand talk conversations, that everyone is Team Down Deep, or Papa Nichols goes boom. And by favorite, I mean like what was like the biggest, most effective one. Not that I think you wanted Papa Nichols to die.
The secret hand talk conversations. They got me. They got me. I would say. I honestly I didn't find Papa Nichols' speech that effective. It was a little trite. So I'm going to rank that lowest. So I'll put everyone as Team Down Deep in the middle.
Okay. I think I'm going to put everyone as Team Down Deep on the top, because I really didn't expect it to go as far as it did. And it was like, because I was like giving side eye to people like Raider Jean, and then I realized like, oh, I'm sorry. I guess the secret hand talk was really satisfying because it paid off. And then, yeah, I understand why we lost Papa Nichols, but this makes me really sad. Luke's been doomsdaying about Dr. Nichols ever since season 1, so I can't wait to hear his reaction.
Well, eventually, if you keep doing that, eventually everybody dies, so you'll be right eventually.
Yeah, but it is in the books. I guess I can say this now, that he's around until the end of the trilogy, so it was a really big surprise that he's gone now.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I was like, oh, they're doing that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Again, yeah, very sad. I think Juliet deserved a reunion, but
yeah,
and
he deserved to, I don't know, to see her come back and find out what happened to her, and he's the one person who didn't get to see her coming over that hill at the end of this episode.
I know. He didn't even know if she was alive when he died.
Yeah, he believed it though. At least he believed it. Yeah. So, and then we find out, the point of blowing up the stairs is to trap all the raiders in the down deep because they had all been sent down to check the generator. And so I guess the holding cell was above level 90. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't specify.
Yep. Had to be.
So the book version of this, by the way, is this happened during the Mission Rebellion, so that 140 years ago in Silo 18, and Salvador Quinn was not the head of IT. It was a Mr. Wick, and Mr. Wick was an entirely different type of character, and he was doing something similar to, they had this season, the everybody blame mechanical thing. He was trying to pull off something similar with the porters. So he tricked a porter into carrying a bomb and it blew up on the stairs.
Oof. Happens to us all.
Yeah. So the silo would turn against the porters. There are no winners in the game of silos. So okay, this is a lengthier recap, but now it's Martha's turn to be smug as she dumps out all the deputy badges which they left in her pack for her to find when she was arrested. Bernard now knows he's lost them all and goes running, Amundsen following, leaving a relieved Martha alone in his office. Meanwhile, Patrick Kennedy has been spreading the gospel that he and Kathleen came up with when they compared notes last week. The display showing a dead world outside is a lie. It's all lies because he doesn't realize that it's the lie that it's the lie. That it's the lie that's the lie.
It's the Spider-Man pointing beam, right?
Yes, exactly.
No, you.
Yeah, the lies are all pointing to each other. You're the lie. You're the lie. We're all the lie together.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the greenery that in that video that he saw, we know it's not real. It's just an AR overlay, but he doesn't know that. And it turns out that Sandy, Chipo Chung, Juliet's former surly assistant, caught a glimpse of that greenery that Juliet flashed last season. So he's got his first convert, and the rest of the holding pen is easy to rile up and get behind them. So when the newly freed rebels come back with the support of the entire deputy staff, it's easy to turn everyone against the remaining raiders and take control and lead everyone out. Lukas sprinting out ahead of the rest, back on his quest to find Bernard. And Paul finds his wife and baby in the crowd, reuniting with them. Bernard tells Amundsen to get whoever they can to protect IT. He admits they're even desperate enough to ask Sims. And then Lukas finally reaches Bernard and does nothing to ease its panic, whispering in his ear that if it hears this, we're all dead. He says he solved the code, and then we don't get to hear what else he says until it's why Meadows quit as your shadow. It's why I quit. And Bernard looks again at his key fob, which still isn't buzzing, and then shuffles by Amundsen in a daze, ignoring him. So, first of all, Lukas, I have to give him a lot of credit. In the apocalypse, his balls grew 3 sizes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's like, shut up and listen to Bernard. Like, ooh.
He's done a lot of growing this season, I gotta say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in just the back half, too, because he was the one I was crying about being missing in the start of the season. So,
well, he had 1 day in the mines, and that was enough to teach him his lesson.
I mean, I guess it was rough down there. I mean, I guess the more he learns about reality, the more, I don't know, he starts thinking, developing. So, okay, question. Leaving aside any book spoiler knowledge you might have, just based on the show, what do you think the algorithm said to Meadows and now Lukas that made everyone who heard it just give up? Is it just about the fact that they're going to kill the whole silo? Why would that make Meadows become an alcoholic recluse for 20 years?
I wonder if it's like, don't mess it up, or we're going to kill everybody and we're always watching you. And maybe like she couldn't take the pressure, and he's like, we're already done here, so I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah, or I guess, I mean, Bernard does say something later like, there's no point to everything that we've done because they can just kill us at any moment. But didn't he already know that?
Did he? Did Bernard know that?
I think Bernard knew about, I guess maybe he didn't know about the safeguard. Maybe he didn't.
Maybe he thought that we're going to erase all their memories again.
Right, maybe, yeah.
And then you that is kind of a death, right? You don't remember yourself.
Yeah. I feel like Amundsen, by the way, he was watching this whole exchange from afar with like, I don't know, is it jealousy? Like, did he seem, I can't predict what's going to happen with him. Do you think he's coveting this shadow to the head of IT position now?
I don't know. I don't know. He's really hard to read. I think he just wants power in any way. Like if it was offered to him, I think he'd take it in a heartbeat. He just wants power wherever it is.
Maybe.
And
Yeah.
he seeks out people he can, you know, attach himself to who are powerful. Like that's why
Yeah.
he's like, look, Bernard was my boss, and just like he was your boss, even though you worked for Meadows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He has a wife at home, we found out this season, so I wonder if we're gonna see more of his family life next season.
Yeah, pregnant wife.
Oh,
So,
right. Uh-huh. Right.
Yep.
Yeah, they sure did bring that up. So, interesting.
Yeah.
But so then Sims finds Bernard shuffling upstairs in his daze and asks what Lucas said. And Bernard asks him if he still wants to be a shadow and hands him the server room key and tells him the code is 552039 and tells him that he was very loyal, mostly, and wishes him luck. So, listeners, please send in your theories about what does the code 552039 mean? What's the significance of that?
I have no idea. I
I can't
yeah.
guess. Like a birthday? Well, I don't know. A birthday
Yeah,
of
it's a
something?
date. It's a
Mhm.
date. 2039? I don't know, but then 55, what's that?
Yeah, open to listener theories. It maybe I wonder if it's even just like an Easter egg that's like the date of Graham Yost, the showrunner's wedding anniversary or something like that, or I don't know.
Like scrambled up maybe? Cuz the 55
Yeah.
is what throws me.
Yeah, because if that's the year, the others don't make sense of as months or days.
Yeah.
Okay, well. So Bernard goes back to his apartment and takes the bag with his special head of IT outside suit. And Bernard walks through the up top cafeteria and goes to the sheriff's station, ignoring everyone. He fires some shots with a pistol to shut them up and tells them all to get the fuck out, except one poor Deputy Jerry, Liam Akpan, who was last seen last season being terrified of keeping Sims in a holding cell. You remember him from last season?
Oh yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yes.
That was really funny. I don't think anyone has ever been more scared of someone in a cell.
um yeah, he was delightful, and it's delightful to see him back, but that's another example of like where they have this huge cadre of characters and they'll just like take one out and play with them a little and then put them back in the shelf.
There's supposed to be 10,000 people there, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So
There should be a lot of
yeah,
different people.
it's a lot of
Yeah,
people.
yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I can't know where they all are at all times. But if they would just like give a little update at the end, be like, "You did not see Mark this episode, but he is blank." Like, is he still down there because he's in a wheelchair?
You want a montage at the end with "You Make My Dreams
Yes.
Come True" playing underneath?
I might choose a different song, but yes, please. All right. So Lucas, meanwhile, goes home to see his mom, Lolita Chakrabarti, and spends some time with her before he believes they all will die. He tells his mom everything is okay, though it's clearly not. And he didn't do what he needed to because it turns out he didn't actually need to because they're all going to die anyway, he thinks. But that's not what he says, obviously. So he watches her cook and talks about childhood memories until Sims barges in to ask Lucas what he said that freaked Bernard out so much. He asks Sims if he's Bernard's shadow now, and tells him that Bernard's mistake was thinking that everything was okay because the key wasn't lighting up. But actually, that was a sign that it's all over. He tells Sims he can't or won't tell him what he said to Bernard, but since Sims has the key, he should take the opportunity to go to the vault and see the legacy before it's all over. So Sims tells him he knows what the fucking code is and goes. Question for you, John. You have one day left in the silo and everything's possible within silo restrictions. How do you spend your time? Are you like in the legacy? Are you going to explore the digger room? Are you going to like turn the stairs into a giant slide? What's your final day in the silo look like?
I mean, if my parents are still around, if I have kids, like those are like what's my life in the silo? Do I have a family? Because then I would spend it with my family.
You don't have a
just like
family.
Lucas is doing. If I don't have a family, okay, well that frees me up a little bit. So I would not go down deep because that honestly sounds terrible. I would love to just explore IT and just like see all the models and stuff. I mean, just like learning about what the world was would feel a little bit satisfying at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely where you'd find me, but I would be sorely tempted by the idea of turning the stairs into a giant slide. I don't know the
Would you
practicality of it, but
survive?
we'll work it out.
Sounds very Mrs. Davis. If you know what, if you know on that one.
Yeah.
Did you watch that
Mrs.
show?
Davis. Yeah, I did watch that show.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it was a great show. I definitely recommend it. It's like, it's a weird, oh, you can't even talk about what it's about without spoiling it, but it's good and it's weird and you should watch it if you haven't.
I think it's best described as a ridiculous but deep musing on what we put our faith in.
There we go. Well put. Yeah, you are much more eloquent than Sims, who has zero chill and points his gun immediately at Lucas as soon as he asks him a question.
Yep. No chill.
Yeah. But Martha and the other Down Deepers are celebrating because they think they've won. IT is theirs, she says, and Carla says she knew deep down that Martha wouldn't really betray them. But Patrick and the display as Ally disciples, they didn't get the memo that IT was the goal, and they keep pressing to the top, saying they want to go outside. Lucas and I have Luke and I have been saying the entire season, like, no one ever said they wanted to go outside, and Bernard is just pushing this. And now they're actually saying they want to go outside. So there we go.
Yep. Interesting.
Yeah. Patrick's horde takes over the up top cafeteria and destroys it, trying to create a makeshift barricade to prevent anyone from getting in and stopping them from opening the doors. But Billings slips through and runs for the sheriff's department, Patrick in hot pursuit. Just a reminder that the exit to the up top is through a holding cell inside the sheriff's department. So Bernard, he's kind of blocking the mobs from getting out at this point. Do you think he's blocking them to protect them from going out?
Probably. I mean, he probably thinks that's going to speed things up. He at least wants to get outside first. See around a little bit. Do you think, by the way, Bernard has IT tape or regular tape?
Oh, I think he has the proper suit that will last as long as possible, but nothing lasts forever, I guess,
Yeah.
But I wonder, because he was just like sitting there with his gun. I wonder, because it seems like, as you said, you think that it makes most sense if he was trying to save Juliet at the end. He does still want the silo to survive, even if he's given up personal hope.
Right. I think that's right.
The sheriff's department staff is banging on the door, and Billings is begging Bernard to answer him, and Patrick is screaming at Billings to get out of the way so he can knock the door down, and he tells his new disciples to move Billings out of the way. But just then, a figure appears on the monitor, cresting the hill outside the silo. It's Juliet. But let's take a step back. Let's take a step back and talk about what's been going on in Silo 17 leading up to this moment. So over in Silo 17, Solo is remembering things. Juliet, Rebecca Nichols, Solo, now going by Jimmy, Steve Zahn, and Eater, whom we're immediately going to start calling Hope, Sarah Hazemi, walk into the Conroy residence, Jimmy's old apartment, so that Juliet can grab the head of IT suit. And Hope wants to know if there's an extra suit that would fit her so she could go with Juliet. And Jimmy says there wasn't any suit for him, and he was an only child, but there was one made for his mother at one point. Do you remember Elise from the books?
No, I really don't. Like,
Okay.
not at all.
So Elise is one of the most important kids in the books, but she's like 8 years old and she gets a lot of lines and all that. So I thought that they were just aging this character from the books, Elise, up, to an actress who could handle that and, work longer hours and things like that. I just thought they, age swapped with Benny because, but then I don't know, they gave a new name. So I still think that this is the Elise stand-in and they aged her up, but I don't know if we're going to like get her book story at all.
Okay. Fair enough. I'd be fine with that.
Because you don't remember her.
Exactly. I'm not missing out on anything.
She's a favorite of a lot of readers because she's really cute and charming, and she does drive the plot at several points. So I'm going to be curious to see how Hope's story overlaps. And this is something, we talked about in depth in the spoiler cast on the kids of Silo 17. But what did you think, by the way, of like, what is your name? My mom called me Hope. Like on the cheese rating scale from mild American to the ooey gooey Frenchiest, what level of cheese is naming your child Hope in the apocalypse?
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. But it didn't jar me, honestly. And usually stuff like that jars me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it made sense with her, and I think it made sense because I don't know, Eater is just such the way they treat her is so bad. That naming her Hope, I was like, let her have something.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a show invention. Ugh, Audrey is the worst. Yeah, I mean, I think it jarred me for two reasons. One is that she didn't say Elise, and the other, I think it has to do with Marvel stuff, and that the name Hope keeps coming up in various capacities, and they keep using it like a wink, wink sort of thing. So it just jumps out at me.
Yeah. Is this a what if problem?
Yeah, it's in what if. It's also, well, maybe I shouldn't say. We got kind of a tease in X-Men 97.
Oh, did we? I don't remember.
Yeah, well, it's for a character they haven't quite introduced yet. But
see, these are the things that, like, if you know the lore really well, you'll pick up on. And then me, I'm
right,
just like,
exactly.
I really liked watching Cyclops fight off the bad guys.
I did like the way they made Cyclops, because he's kind of like a Captain American character, and I like when they make those types of like Superman characters, whatever, when they make them a little more morally ambiguous, like they show them actually struggling with their morality, like Billings.
Well, you should be reading Absolute Superman. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I know.
That's all right.
But anyway, all that talk over on the Lorehounds. But yeah, so we find out that this was the last time Jimmy saw his mom was in this apartment. We'll find out more about that, but that means none of that horrible self-sacrifice like witnessed in the book version that I read last week in the episode. What did you think of the way they showed him remembering in the apartment?
Oh, I thought it was great. Honestly, I thought that was a great way to do it. I feel like it happened more gradually in the book, so this was a good way to speed that up for TV. And I think you needed that kind of a reveal. I could have seen this being an earlier in the season reveal, like maybe the penultimate episode. But I think it worked really well.
Yeah,
I liked him seeing his parents and and I loved him looking in the mirror, going, "Oh, I got old."
Yeah, I'm older than them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the way they staged the reveal with the lighting and the music. And I just have to do another shout out for the composer, Atle Orfersen. Just really does some incredible music for this series. But several times we hear about this suit made for Jimmy's mom. So that's like now Chekhov's outside walking suit.
Yeah, well, it didn't matter in the end, so.
Yeah, not for this season.
That's true.
But it's still out there.
That's true. Oh, you're right. That was not her suit we saw ripped up. That was
right. That was
suit.
Yeah, that was Russ's Jimmy's dad's suit. Although, yeah.
It wasn't his dad. He was his shadow.
Sorry, don't hurt me. I'll do the dive.
Oh God.
So Jimmy hasn't been home in decades and wants to linger. So Juliet and Hope leave him there for nostalgia time, and he thinks about his parents, Russ and Gwen, Nick Haverson, and Imogen Butler Cole, remembering the last argument he overheard over lunch just before the rebellion kicked off. On his parents' old desk, he picks up a tattered slip of paper which says "Safeguard Procedure." This jogs a memory. So he chases after the women, insisting that he has to show them something that will save Juliet's silo. But he can't completely let go of protocol and won't tell Juliet in front of Hope. So they send her back to the vault to play with the kids who are mean to her. And Jimmy tells Juliet he remembers his parents talking about the safeguard procedure and that it could kill people, but that they figured out a way to stop it. This was a long time ago when he was a kid, so it's a bit fuzzy, but he knows it worked because his mom didn't come back. But when those people went outside, they didn't die, not at first at least. Juliet, though, is fully prepared to give him her strong, exasperated face until he remembers some more details. And he said his dad had his shadow, the real Solo in this version of the story, take him to the vault. And a few days later, he heard explosions, perhaps the stairs being blown up by the rebels. And then the sheriff dragged Solo's dad back to the vault to get him in, ultimately shooting him before Jimmy's eyes. But before that, apparently his dad told the sheriff that they'd done something to make it safe for them to go outside. But the sheriff wanted the truth, so Jimmy's dad, Russ, told him the truth. The safeguard is a pipe coming from outside, pumping into level 14, they figure out. A pipe pumping enough poison to kill the whole silo. His parents had to put a cap on it, but they were afraid something would go wrong. Juliet and Jimmy ignore this last part and go running off to Judicial to look for the pipe and Jimmy's mom's suit, which would be the right size for Juliet, by the way. So, yeah, do you have thoughts, first of all, on this safeguard? Like, this is definitely different from the book version, but it's not that different, this whole poison pipe tease.
Yeah, I think that works as a fine substitution, and it's very scary stuff, right? Like you lose control of the silo, and they don't give you whoever's in charge of this is not giving you a second chance.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you think, by the way, of the whole the whole thing they added this season where Solo wasn't actually Solo's name, but he stole it from someone else, and that whole added plot?
Yeah, I honestly, it was fine. It was fine. Because in the book, it's like he calls himself Solo just because he's alone, right? He kind of just abandons his name.
Yeah, but it was a nice poem. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't really see the point of adding this, but
Yeah, it didn't do much.
yeah. I do wonder though also like his mom, I hope we get that whole story next season because right now it feels like she sacrificed herself not for her son but for the whole silo, but for naught.
Yeah,
Or
like why? I mean, Juliet saw the bodies going up, so I guess they did open the door into the deadliness, and
Mhm.
that let it in.
Yeah, but they said that there was there was the good gas going out or something, or the bad gas stopped at least. And then the bad gas started again. That's what Jimmy said in episode 3, I think it was.
Or see, I didn't understand if like if he meant, he said they didn't die not right away. So I wonder if it's just they they got rid of the immediate poison, but because they left the door open, the poison air got them.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like, I have a book-based thing that I'm thinking about, and I'm wondering if it played out similarly, which would involve that they fixed it, but then it got unfixed through
Mm.
means. Anyway, so not to be cryptic in this non-book spoiler section, but so I just want to point out, as they're looking through the documents, Juliet picks up a suit room receipt for Solo's mom, basically showing that she got it made. So we know her name is Gwen Conroy, and she worked in Judicial. So that's how we know that's where the pipe goes. And level 14 is where it is. So I guess this is why she had to be the one to do the thing and that's where her suit is. I wonder if they'll find her suit on her body. I was just wondering. Oof.
No, it's pretty dark,
Yeah.
but fitting for the show.
Yeah, I do wonder though if so Jimmy said all this stuff, but he's trying to remember stuff from when he was a kid. I wonder if all of it is 100% accurate.
Yeah, I think about that a lot. I'm reading Children of Dune right now, and there's a lot about like memory and what makes a
Right.
person and whatnot. And I'm thinking through the whole thing. Like memory is imperfect. Like
Oh yeah.
how is this working? And I think with Dune, you kind of just have to hand wave it away. But here, yeah, I think
They
you're
train
right.
their
Like,
brains, yeah.
yeah, they're super brainy. But here, I think you could see that being, a real imperfect memory kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know if we should 100% trust what he thinks he heard.
I mean, he thought he was a different guy for like 30
Right.
years, right? So
Right. Yeah, he has a tenuous grasp on reality, which makes sense given his experience, but well. I was surprised that they could feel the boom from Silo 18. Like, it didn't seem like a big enough boom that they should be able to feel it underground.
yeah,
Presumably, I don't know how far away exactly they are, but
yeah,
yeah.
I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know. Well, I guess close enough to feel it.
Yeah. But it does make Juliet's urgency go up. Yeah, and by the way, if anyone does know about that sort of explosion resonating underground, I would be curious to hear that in the feedback.
I mean, I think
Um,
better underground than in the air. Like, I think it's more plausible that way.
yeah, I guess. I don't know. I guess so. I guess it depends what the ground is made up of or something. Yeah, I'm not a geologist or a physicist, so. But I guess I am a story detective, so I'm guessing the mystery of the pipe leading into judicial and presumably Jimmy's mom's cleaning suit await in season 3. I did my best detecting to figure that out.
I think you did a great job, Sherlock.
Thank you, thank you. So meanwhile, we have the mean kids are trying to make Eater happen, and yeah, back in the vault, Audrey, Georgiana Sadler, and Rick Orlando Norman are having fun exploring the wild wonders of the Legacy Library with their baby and their little brother Benny, Reggie, Absalom, and they're all enjoying a can of fruit. It's blowing their minds until Hope walks in and ruins it all by just existing. And by the way, did you see that video that I shared on Discord of Steve Zahn giving a tour of the vault?
No, I didn't see that. That's a lot of fun.
I was cool because also it turns out that he suggested some of the things that were in there.
Oh, well, that's cool. He seems like a guy who's like a little nerdy, has an
Yeah.
idea of this kind of thing.
Oh yeah. It would just be. I mean, it's kind of like a fantasy to just live for a long time alone with nothing to do but read.
It's a fantasy, but it's also not
No,
because I
I
I
know.
find myself to be pretty extroverted, and
Mm,
I struggled with that during the pandemic of not being able to see people outside my immediate family.
yeah.
I definitely felt like less energetic because of it, and so yeah, yeah. I feel badly for Solo in a lot of ways.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it makes sense that I think that they've handled the way he's developed. You know, he's still a good guy, but he's a good guy who doesn't know how to give a hug.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did really like that when she goes to hug and he's like, no, no.
No, not that.
You know, it's funny. I have a 2-year-old, as you know, but your listeners might not
Hmm.
know. And when the babysitter comes over, sometimes she goes, "Oh, can I have a hug?" And he goes, "No." and he's and she goes, "Well, that's great boundaries, kid." But it's just funny. So it reminded me of my 2-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but that's kind of the energy he's been giving, and I think, well, considering he's like 12 and he was, yeah, hasn't been socialized for decades, so.
Right, right.
Mm. Well, but Juliet's going. She's got a new fire lit under her ass. And so she runs into the vault with Jimmy, asking the kids to help them get the good tape to help her prep her suit to walk outside. But she finds out the suit she took from Jimmy's dad's closet is full of holes. So,
Mm,
yeah, Juliet responds by saying fuck a lot. And then when Audrey starts sniping at Hope in the middle of this, Juliet shuts that shit down. She tells Audrey that she's got to get over this picking on poor Hope, and yes, she has to call her Hope immediately because Juliet's gonna go save some people she loves from getting killed in the other silo, and the rest of them have got to band together to survive in this place. She says, "Blame the people who built this place and put them in it." And she tells Audrey to realize how lucky she is to have what she has with Rick and the baby's double uncle Benny.
I love how Audrey's basically like, guys, I think Mom's mad.
I feel like she had this look on her face like she was awestruck a little bit, like she developed a little bit of a crush on Juliet.
I just think no one's ever put her in her place before, right? Like the only
Yeah,
people in her life are people who are, I think, subordinate to her in this chain of
right.
command.
I wonder how it was with their parents and how long ago their parents died.
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
So what are your feelings about Audrey and the kids in general? And I'm gonna ask in a pick 3 game. So we're gonna leave Benny and the baby out because they obviously never did a thing wrong. Um, but for the other 3, Rick, Audrey, and Hope, which would you adopt? Which would you feed a meal to? And which would you abandon?
Adopt Hope because she's gone through enough.
Mm,
Rick, feed a meal. Audrey, abandon. I don't think
yeah.
there's another reasonable order, but maybe there is. You tell
No,
me.
I'm gonna agree with you. Yeah, that one kind of wrote itself, I guess. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Hmm. Okay, so this is a good place for a pause. And when we come back, we're going to discuss the end of the episode. So when Juliet and Silo 18's worlds come back together, and then that other world we get a glimpse of at the very end. So see you on the other side. Juliet realizes that Jimmy has disappeared with the other suit, the fire suit she was working on. She finds him at the dive site. He was testing it to make sure it's airtight. And yeah, I wasn't sure getting the suit wet right now is a great idea, but I guess we're seeing now that like Jimmy's conquering his fears of failure because he wants to make sure his friend will be okay.
Yep.
So that's when we get that hug moment
I
or
love
lack
the
of a
hug
hug
moment.
moment. No.
It's really good when a show like this can have those little moments of comedy. You really needed it, like
Mhm.
Bernard laughing maniacally. But let me just say also in that scene, Bernard needed a white fluffy cat to be like petting while he laughed. And then this was great
Yeah.
comedy that felt like it fit the moment too.
Mm. I was like, people always want to cast a white fluffy cat in that, but then I actually have one. I'm like, what does this say about me?
Do you stroke it maniacally when
Only
you're
when
recording?
laughing. Only when laughing at other people's misery.
Right.
Or the evil plan that I've enacted. Hmm. So, when Juliet gets back to the up top, the other kids are there being nice to Hope because it was only Audrey who had a problem with her anyway, and now they're allowed to let that go. And Hope hands Juliet a cloth asking if it'll work, and Juliet takes it, and Hope asks Juliet to come back, though Juliet makes no promises. But she does give Hope a little pep talk before she goes, and then she tells him to move away from the up top before they open the door. So, yeah, what do we think that little fabric was? It looks like they were painting something on it.
Yeah, I don't really know. I don't really know.
I feel like that's a tease for next season, but then it went by so quickly. I feel like if that's something we're supposed to remember, I think most people would miss it. And if I didn't have honestly the audio description pointing it out in
Mhm.
my second watch, I might not have even really registered it.
I will say Apple screeners are very good. Like
Yes.
they are much more thorough than screeners from anywhere else I've seen.
Yeah, completely agree. Although I did appreciate with the Doctor Who Disney screeners, we did at least get subtitles.
That's true. That's true.
So Jimmy helps Juliet get suited up and makes his own private plea for Juliet to return. She says nothing will stop her from trying, and then he gives her the hug of someone who hasn't hugged someone in 40 years. But he tried.
Yeah.
Then jumping back to Chaos in the Silo 18 cafeteria, they all fall still, watching with bloodied faces as Juliet crests the hill, confirming she's alive, returning home. And Juliet runs to the lens and completes the cleaning she refused to complete in season 1, and everyone inside cheers.
Yeah, that was a nice moment. That felt
That
like
was
a
a
lot of
nice
good
moment.
closure.
You know what would have made it a nicer moment?
What?
If Daddy Dr. Nichols was there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I don't know. I don't think it was bad storytelling to kill him, but I'm still sad about it.
That's okay. You can still be
I
sad.
understand when they did it, but I don't have to like it. So Bernard hears this cheering and he steps out to peek at the display screen just in time to see Juliet hold up the sign, "Not safe, do not come out." And then Bernard apparently suits up to go outside. What do you think Bernard was thinking in this moment when he saw this?
I don't know. It doesn't seem to have inspired him with hope.
No.
Like
Apparently.
uh I don't know. For me, I was like, oh, maybe he'll be hopeful now. Like, oh, they're not going to go outside at least.
Yeah.
But he's just like, nah, I'm still done. I'm still done.
Yeah.
He's in a depressive fugue state.
I guess he's like, none of this matters because they're going to shut us down anyway.
Right. Like they've already made their
Yeah.
decision.
Right. Yeah. So what exactly did Lucas say to him? That's what I'm wondering. Yeah. But while all this is happening elsewhere, Sims is running to the vault to meet his wife and son, Anthony, Oscar Coleman, and he opens the server room door, inputs the code into the keypad for the vault, and opens the door, and the algorithm speaks to him, asking him to state his name. So, yeah, I mean, Sims's mind must be blown right now, taking a look inside here compared to the technology outside.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually, when you were recapping before, I was like, wait, why does he know the code already? Is it because he already knew it from his job? Like, no, Bernard told him. So he really hasn't seen anything in here.
Right. Yeah, no, he has no idea. I mean, and already, I guess he got an inkling because already the Watcher room is a step ahead of the rest of the silo, but then this is yet another
Right.
stepper 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he introduces himself to the algorithm, his wife, and his son. And when the algorithm asks why he's there, he says he wants to save the silo. And the algorithm voice says, "So do I." And then it asks Sims to take his son and leave the vault, but leave Camille behind. So, yeah, I mean, that's got to sting, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He finally gets in and they're like, all right, yeah, you can get out.
Yeah, just leave your wife.
There's the door, buddy. I mean, this guy has an inferior complex to everybody. And he's already had a guy from the mines got promoted over him. His
Yeah.
old boss, his old subordinate is now working more closely with Bernard than he could. It's just one slap in the face after another for him.
Yeah. And this is now the person closest to him who already was lying to him. So there's going to be trust issues next season, I'm sure.
Yep. Thanksgiving is going to be really awkward.
Oh, but I did always say that I thought she was better suited than her husband is. You know, she's not as well suited as Lucas, but you know, Lucas's book plot is like completely way off the tables somewhere else, and we'll see if it gets back to. But
she's just a pragmatist, really.
Mhm.
That's all it is. She's just somebody who's trying to solve a problem, and I think that might be what the silo needs at this point.
Do you think she'd be a better head of the silo than Bernard?
Yes. Full stop.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
I agree. Yeah.
Bernard. The problem with Bernard is that he always thinks he knows more than everybody, and he always thinks he's right more than everybody. And he is very smart, but everybody needs allies, and he's alienated all of them. And I don't think she would do that. I think she's more concerned about keeping as many allies as she can, even when they're disagreeing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think she is a pragmatist above all else, and he is more of a passionate man. That's why he loses his temper so much, and which is one of the reasons why he would make a terrible shadow. And the algorithm has eyes everywhere, right? So the algorithm.
Oh, sorry,
knows
you
all.
said versus Bernard. Did you mean?
Oh, I
versus
meant
Sims?
versus Robert. I thought
Robert.
yeah.
Robbie.
Yeah, sorry. Rob.
Yes, I still think she'd
Bob.
be a lot better than her husband. I don't think he.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't think he's very smart compared to Bernard. Bernard is very smart.
Right. Sims, yeah. Sims is. I was saying Sims is the one who flies off the handle. Also, yeah.
Yeah, he does. Bernard loses his temper every now and then, but he's always got something cooking underneath. Sims just acts without thinking a lot of the time,
Mhm.
and I mean Robert Sims, of course.
Right.
Camille is much more level-headed and also knows how to improvise better. I think Robert follows orders and will set a plan in motion, but he's not very good at thinking on his feet once it's going.
Yeah. Well, I always Luke and I always refer back to that line that Meadows said. It's like him thinking outside the box is like trying to imagine a color that doesn't exist.
Oh no. Oh, I forgot about that. That's so terrible, but so true.
Yeah. Yeah, Meadows was my other favorite. Oh, pour one out for Meadows.
She had a great ending though. I really enjoyed that ending.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I thought that's why I thought like episode 4 was going to be one that people were talking about. But I think episode 9 was the one that got the most buzz this season.
Yeah. I haven't been keeping up on it, so I don't even know.
Yeah. Well, so outside, Juliet's trying to pry her way back into the silo, which is getting her nowhere. But luckily, the door is open. But then Bernard is there waiting with a gun. And she says she wants to stop people from going out. And he says she's the reason they want to. And so I'm going to speak for Luke here. I'm not going to attempt an accent, but Luke would say, no, Bernard, you're the reason people want to go out. Stop telling them about the magic tape, etc.
Should I keep doing the British thing? Should I go,
Yes.
not me, not Hermione, you?
I think we'll see if Luke can pinpoint where that accent comes from.
It's bad Ron Weasley.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that he would say it's not Nottingham.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Luke's gonna tear me to shreds next week. Luke, you can do my accent if you want.
Oh yeah, I want to hear Luke's American accent. Actually, I don't think I've ever heard that. So Juliet points out that Bernard's not going to shoot her, so he admits that he just wanted to experience being out of the silo for once, and the gun is for the end when he can't stand the pain anymore. And he says it's always been out of their hands, and there's no point in trying to save anything. Juliet tells him she knows about the poison they can pump in, but she doesn't know who they are or why they do it. Bernard says he knows the who, but not the why, and he doesn't fucking care. He feels like he sacrificed everything and it never really mattered. But she tells him there may be a way to prevent the safeguard procedure and save them all. But as she's about to tell him what that is, the door to the inside starts to close, with them on the wrong side of it. So Juliet races through and Bernard chases her, telling her to come back. She'll burn to death in there. So now they're both trapped in the lock as fire shoots out of the walls and they dive to the ground and the screen cuts to black. So this is a near one-for-one of a sequence from the book, but there are some extra spoilery elements to that one that are missing from this one. So this is going to be part of the focus of the first of the 2 season finale spoiler casts. I thought that they had cut this burning lock thing from the show because, so basically the idea is that when they go out to clean, they go out and they say they're spraying this argon gas, which follows them out. And now we have a sense that maybe this is not such a good thing as they claim to be. But then afterwards, they burn the lock off in between, saying, they don't want the contaminated air to get back in, which makes sense. But that's something in the books they set up when Juliet goes out to clean and previous people, so that when she comes back, she knows already going in that there's going to be fire there. She's not surprised by it. So this is a change, and I guess they just only have so much time to set these things up.
Yeah, again, I was fine with them doing it. I didn't love the way that they cut off, but I'm not going to complain about it all day because overall, I would say, it was an A episode. It would have had the plus if they would have resolved that.
Yeah, I just feel like he must be alive because otherwise they would tell us. That's just my feeling about it, but we'll see. And yeah, the about the they, that he knows who they are. I'm not going to ask you to speculate because we do know who they are from the books, but I am very excited to see how the TV version plays out.
Yeah, me too. I think it'll be really interesting once they get there.
Yeah. All right, this leads us to the last, most teasery part. I can't wait to hear the non-reader reactions to this because it looks like we're getting a glimpse of our world.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. They cut to something completely new outside the silo. It's a world that looks like our own. It's a rainy night in Washington, D.C., and we know this because we see the Capitol building. And there's a man in a suit played by Ashley Zuckerman who is scanned for radioactivity by a security guard with a wand before entering a bar. So yeah, it sounds like in this world, like it's standard practice that bouncers are always just scanning everyone for radioactive. And we find out, about the dirty bomb in a bit, but that would be a fun extra step to everything that you do, huh?
Yeah. He was in Succession?
Yeah, he's one of those guys who's like, I knew his face and I looked it up and he's been in so many different things.
Yeah, I was just clicking on him.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And what's notable is he asks the security guard, do you ever get a red? And the security guard says, no, not really, which kind of plays into something that this woman, Helen, he meets says. We find out that he's a freshman congressman from Georgia's 15th district, and he's there to meet a woman named Helen, played by Jessica Henwick. And she's another one of those who's just like, you see her face. And you know what I know her from the most is actually Iron Fist.
Oh no. We don't talk
Yeah,
about
but
that show.
no, but she's the best part of it. And sorry, spoiler for Iron Fist. Skip ahead if you don't want to hear that. But at the end of the show, she is the Iron Fist.
Well, I definitely was going to go back and watch that, Elysia. So come on.
Well,
Come on.
I mean, I guess some people will now, leading into Daredevil, but that's they can just continue her story in Marvel anyway. But I'm glad to see her here. So I'm going to call him Suit Guy because they conspicuously don't tell us his name, which makes me think they're going to change it from the books. Hello, future Elysia here with an update. I don't know why I'm pretending to be a ghost, but anyway, John and I recorded this before the episode dropped, and since it has dropped today, we have found out they did indeed change this character's name. It is Daniel. I feel comfortable telling you now that his name in the books is Donald, and so that should make everything we say after this make more sense. Okay, back to the conversation. Bye-bye. But anyway, Suit Guy thinks it's a date, but we'll soon find out she's lured him there for other reasons. She says, let's get this out of the way. Where were you when it happened? And in sessions, she says for him at the same time he does. She's well studied on him, but I thought he said he didn't look her up, but then later he points out that he just dodged the question about looking
Right.
her up.
Right.
Yeah.
He definitely did look her up. He's a guy who knows how to play it coy, but still does his research. And
Mhm.
by the way, on the name thing, I could very well see them changing the name for various reasons.
Yeah, I was wondering, because I thought about like the whole Hope Elise thing, and I think this would be for different reasons, but maybe his name's too similar to a real life person.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's probably right.
yeah, because it was they said her name, but then anyway, yeah. Anyway, we'll see. That's fine. I can tell they have not changed the character. The character is on point.
Right.
They
Yeah.
have changed Helen, but I think for the better. I think that Helen doesn't have so much of a personality in the book. So actually, I got some feedback on the spoiler cast from Soph YB that we talked about last week, where she said that she hoped that Helen would be given. She was talking about fan castings for the show, and she said that she hoped that Helen would be given more personality. So I was excited imagining her watching this and finding out that yes, they did, and it's not an annoying personality like Audrey's.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they did a good job. She was charming, and so was he.
Yeah. So, as the man in the suit pretends to struggle to remember that she worked at the Post, Helen knows his whole CV, that he got a master's in engineering from the University of Georgia and then joined the Army Corps of Engineers. Yeah, so yet another Georgia clue after the guidebook and the hush puppies and the peach from the opening credits and all that.
Yeah, right.
So I think it's starting to be okay if I talk about Georgia as being an important place
Yeah.
to this story. And yeah, I was a little confused about, there was a vague reference to what Suit Guy's Corps did in New Orleans. And then he asks Helen if she knows anyone who was affected by the dirty bomb. So by that, I thought that the dirty bomb happened in New Orleans, but then later it sounds like he talks about his sister, was the only one who lives in DC and was away at the time. So I don't know whether it was in New Orleans or DC.
Yeah, it's interesting. If they're doing scans in DC, do they even need to do that? Would they even be doing them if it happened somewhere else?
Yeah.
I mean,
I
the US
guess
is a big place.
Yeah, I think probably we're meant to understand that it allegedly happened there, but
Yeah.
and he asks her, and this is where there's doubt, it seems, about whether it even happened, because he asks her, was anyone affected? And she said no. And then yes, Ghost. And Ghost was affected. My cat was affected. The fluffy white one. And yeah, Suit Guy says that only his uncle Tyler was, who took it personally because he's been ranting about Iran for years. So apparently this dirty bomb thing was blamed on Iran, if not actually conducted by. Ghost is very upset about this, but I do have to tell you about the dirty bomb.
Yep.
So a dirty bomb, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a mix of regular bombs with radioactive material, and the purpose is to basically to make a location uninhabitable. And in our world, on our timeline, this is not something that's ever been used, but it has been tested. So
It's not great. Don't do that. Don't do that, people.
Don't do that. But this I'm intrigued by this whole thing that a bomb has already gone off, and what does that do with the story? Yeah.
Or has it? Because she throws that into doubt,
Or
right?
has it? Right. And and we've got several like they don't know anyone who's been actually affected. The guy never sees, a red on the scanner. So I'm leaning toward it not happening. What do you think?
I think not happening. I think it's probably just, a lot of people say a lot of things to retain power. Fear is a powerful tool in electoral politics.
That would be very cold of someone.
Sure would.
Have to thaw. So Helen, this is when she fesses up that she lured him there to talk about this whole dirty bomb thing. And he fesses up that he did look up her school. It's the University of Oregon, and their mascot is the Ducks. Helen says that Suit Man works for the citizens of this country, not the shadowy figures who pay for campaigns, and the people deserve to know if there are plans to strike back against Iran, whether or not there really was a radiological weapon attack. So she's afraid this didn't even happen, and they're going to start a war over it.
All right. At the same time, does a freshman congressman know that?
Maybe if he had certain relationships with people who would.
Yeah, that's true.
Depends who he knows, I would say.
But I think most freshman congressmen, the answer is no.
I agree. But she's targeting this one in particular for some reason. So
yeah,
maybe she has reason to believe he does know.
Or she thinks he's handsome.
Or she thinks he's handsome. I think he's handsome.
Yeah, he's charming.
They're both handsome.
He's no Lestat, but
who can be?
Not everyone can be my type.
But apparently date is an old-fashioned word now. Like what do you call it? Like the three seashells or something?
But a good way to signal that this is, our grandparents' generation. So does that mean that like now is their grandparents' generation?
Right. Like we're their grandparents?
Or is this even further? Because like date still stuck around for a while.
Yeah. So it's probably not 2025. Right. So she throws all this at him, and the congressman does not answer her and says he's going to leave. He pulls out a gift he'd gotten her at a convenience store on his way as a polite Southern boy who thought he was going on a date. And it's a Pez dispenser with a duck on it, like the mascot of her school. The silo theme plays, she smiles, and the screen cuts to black. Da da da. So the Pez dispenser.
I was so mad.
You were mad that it was cut there?
Yeah, well, only because I wanted more of the Bernard and Juliet thing. But as soon as it went to the Our World thing, I was like, oh, well, it's probably over anyway. But that further cut my hope out. So, yeah.
I was so excited about this. And I didn't expect the Pez dispenser to turn up. But now that it does, I know how it's going to be used.
Yes, I do too. I was thinking about that. I was like, oh, no.
Yeah. So I can't ask you much about this because we know things, but Luke, I hope you're listening and jotting down my questions for you. I'm going to pose them to you again in the mailbag wrap up.
Sounds good.
Just a note, by the way, when it cut to black, the first name in the credits was Ian Glenn. So I was like, oh, I almost felt like the actor died, which no, thankfully not.
Yeah, no, he still has some Jorah Mormont in him. He's all right.
They gave him his due, though, at least this episode,
Yeah, they did. He did a good job. And like I said, I didn't love his speech, but it was fine. It was fine. And he did at least get to act a bit. And I did really enjoy watching him sort of be pulled into the plot.
Yeah. I mean, I thought his best interactions with other people might have been in previous episodes, like his whole talk with Martha and everything
Yeah.
about Juliet. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
But yeah, that's a wrap on season 2. So yeah, would you have any final thoughts on the episode or the season?
I wish I had watched it live as it came out. I got caught up with other things, but
Mm-hmm.
it was still a fun binge watch. Like if for some reason you're here and you just wanted to listen to all the plot without watching it, go back and binge it. It's a
Yeah.
good binge watch.
I think now that the season's done, it's a good time to binge it anyway, just to get more out of everything.
Yeah, I think that's right. And now going from one conspiracy to another with Severance, I'm glad that this had a mostly satisfying ending. Like I had my one complaint, but other than that, I thought everything worked out to really set up an interesting season 3. And that tease at the end really teed up a lot of things nicely.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for the next season.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect them to actually go to Washington D.C. like that. I thought that we might get another tease but basically, yeah, they're setting up what's going to be a huge plot in the second book and thus in next season.
Right.
Yeah. What are your hopes for next season?
A lot of the origin stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of in the distant past kind of stuff. But also I want to see if we get more of Silo 17, or if Juliet is kind of gonna just be like, I'm home now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess, yeah, they're not going to leave Steve Zahn hanging, right?
Well, we'll see.
Well, all right. Well, we are going to have a special mini section after the end credits, after the music, to just do a little spoiler talk. So if you're inclined for that, then remember to stick around after the music. But yeah, basically at the end of next week, when Luke is up for it, we'll be back with our mailbag wrap up. And we also want to hear your thoughts on the season and what are your theories about what's going to happen next. Please send all that to we'llshiftustpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to get voicemails as well if you're up for it. Book spoilers, by the way, are also welcome if you email them to me, but then that feedback will be discussed in the spoilercast episode. And this week's spoilercasts, plural, we have 2 discussions. There's going to be Juliet Returns, and we're going to talk about the whole aftermath of that. And then a separate second episode with the story of those 2 characters from the end and the people in their orbit and what's going on there. There will also be other Silo news we're going to talk about in the mailbag wrap up, by the way. So subscribe to the feed and check out that episode for more of that. And also at the same time in this public feed, Luke and I are starting to release our Dune adaptation series, starting with a 5-part book breakdown. I will re-release the intro episode with more detailed updates at the beginning of the coverage coming. So that will come out this coming week, but then we'll be following that with a book breakdown. The first part is already recorded, and it's after the book, we're going to be going through the adaptations from Jodorowsky to the games to the sci-fi series, and releasing a new episode about every 2 weeks. Supercast and Patreon subscribers will get breakdowns of course, you have access to all the breakdowns of the Silo books and short stories and season 1 stuff and extra interviews with Hugh Howey with full book spoilers and weekly spoiler casts from this season, but also additional episodes like the extra seasonal specials, like for Halloween and the winter holidays. And there are additional Howey book breakdowns, short story breakdowns coming up, and Doom book breakdowns coming up after Silo. But those are the ones from the very beginning, 10,000 years before the original book series, from Frank Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson, the stuff that leads up to the Dune Prophecy book TV
Very
show.
nice.
Yeah. And I want to welcome new Silosins to the Silo this week. Will R., Tori H., Mad Meg, Chris W., Danny D., Emma N., Joseph Lalo, and Dylan M. Thank you so much. And yep, we're so glad to have you in the clubhouse. Can't wait to hear all of your thoughts and theories. And any new Silosins who joined after this episode, thank you and welcome. And I'll shout you out personally in the season wrap up with Luke. If you're not interested in like all those other extra episodes, then there is the season pass option where you can get just the Silo episodes for a one-time fee. You can choose either season 1 in the books, season 2 or a double season pass at a discounted rate. And you can find links in the show notes with more information about all of that. And of course, if you're not interested in any of that at all, just thank you so much for listening. And thank you especially to those of you who have shared the podcast and left reviews. I've been noticing that, and it does genuinely help. So thank you so much. And please do join us on the Lorehounds Discord. That's a fun place, right, John?
It sure is. I mean, we've got plenty of channels for Silo, for Severance, and for all the other wild stuff we do.
Yeah, everything that we've got stuff for Woolshift Dust, for Dune, for Silo, with separate chats per episode so that you can chat spoilers and also a book section, plus everything else covered on the network. Like, yeah, you brought up Severance. So tell us about the separate Severance feed.
The separate Severance feed. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's a tongue twister.
Severance feed is severed from our main feed. So you can get the first episode on the main feed, but after that, it's only going to be on the Severance feed. This is part of our business relationship with Properly Howard because we're doing joint coverage. So please make sure you go and follow that. That's in the Lorehounds link tree as well.
Yeah, there's a separate link in the show notes for this, because I think a lot of people are going to be finishing this and then rolling right over to Severance.
I hope so. I mean, it's a highly anticipated show, and I don't know if you saw what they did in Grand Central. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. They set up like a little office in the middle of Grand Central where people could watch through glass, and they had the actual real cast there acting stuff out.
Right. And yeah, we're having a lot of fun here. We're having a lot of fun. It was really fun to do our preview episode, and tomorrow we're recording our episode 1 episode. Right after we're done recording here, I got to go watch episode 1.
Okay. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
We also have the Lorehounds feed. This week, we just got Marvel's What If. The final season coverage from Jean and I just came out. You and Marilyn are doing a Skeleton Crew wrap-up at the end of this week. We have next week Nosferatu. That was a fun recording that you, Jean, and I did together.
That was fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. And next week's my birthday, so I'm finally putting out Agatha, I swear to God.
It's going to happen.
We've got the Agatha Coven quiz coming, and it's going to be worth the wait. All 12 of those files I stitched together.
I was flattered by my ruling, so.
Yeah, no, it's fun. We all got sorted into our different witches. And then at the end of the week, Jean and I we have our Creature Commandos one-shot coming out, which is going to be a versus the Howling Commandos, Nick Fury's Howling Commandos, another monster team from Marvel. And yeah, what else we got going on in the rest of the network?
Properly Howard finishing up their A Few Good Films series. Check that out on their feed, and of course covering Severance with us. Radioactive Ramblings covering the Red Rising book series, and also covering Studio Ghibli films.
Ghibli, yep.
I don't care. I'm going to say Ghibli every single time. Nobody can stop me.
I'm going to say Ghibli over you.
Okay, fair enough. Rings and Rituals is not going to be back for a while, so go back if you want to hear about Rings of Power Season 1. Nevermind the Music is doing an award season show next week, I believe, and they have weekly coverage, which is really great. Psychology and music all together. What more could you ask for?
Yeah.
And what do you got on Star Wars?
Yeah, Star Wars Canon Timeline Podcast kicking back off the High Republic, and also gradually moving into the next phase leading up to the prequel trilogy. And just to shout out Luke's podcast, It Could Be Said, they recently put out at least one new episode before he was injured. So I think they might have to wait on the next one, obviously. Any final thoughts before we go? We do have the book spoiler part coming, but any final thoughts that are non-spoilery?
Well, thank you for having me on this, and it was a lot of fun to get to talk about the show. I know we were going to try to do something mid-season, then I got sick, so
right.
I'm glad that we finally got this going.
Yeah, it's been a really busy season. It's also that they dropped it like over the holidays.
I know.
All these December drops are killing me.
It was a silly time to drop it, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It seemed like it got a lot of traction anyway, and it got renewed, so who cares?
Right. Yeah. Now we're all set for the next 2 seasons, so yeah. Just drop the next one in like summer or something, please.
There you go.
Well, I'll see or talk to you all in about a week for the mailbag wrap up. Please do send in your thoughts again to we'llshiftustpodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, I've been getting a whole range of takes about episodes 8 and 9. So I'm really eager to hear what you all made of the finale. And now, if you don't want to hear the Silo book spoilers coming after the music, you better sprint out of here like you've got a wife and kid waiting for you outside a vault. Okay, so now that it's just us and the spoiler fiends, right? Everyone else is gone, letting you go. Okay, and gone. So Donald and Helen. I was thinking. So obviously, we're both thinking the same thing about why they might avoid saying the name Donald. Although I think that's not fair to all the other Donalds in the world.
No, it's not fair, but I get it too,
Yeah.
especially in politics. I just don't know how you can do that.
Yeah, I guess especially the political angle. But I did wonder if it could have something to do with the Troy twist later.
So when I read Shift,
Mm-hmm.
I honestly thought to myself, like, how are they going to adapt this? Because obviously,
Right.
it's going to be the same actor. It has to be the same actor.
So for anyone who doesn't know, like for a bunch of the second book, we get this character with another name, Troy, and then later find out that it's Donald, but he's on the forget drug, so he forgot.
Let's call him Donald. Maybe that'll separate him enough.
Yeah, Dodo.
Yeah, and so I'm like, this is something that works really well in a book, and I don't know if it's going to translate to screen. So I'm really curious how they're going to actually do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's why I wondered if they're doing tricky stuff with the name, but then I don't know, how would they do that still?
I wonder if they'll do like first person point of view for Troy.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that because I don't want to give spoilers for a new movie that came out, but I'll just say that there is a movie called Nickel Boys that just came out, and that is all shot in first person point of view, and they sometimes do that to switch the perspective and then reveal things. So maybe that wouldn't be a bad idea.
It would at least give them the like. What if it's like he's so drugged up that he's just like in his own head, he doesn't even know what he looks like, and then in the middle of the season it pans to him and we see it's Donald.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be suspicious though if they suddenly like did something radically different with the cinematography like that.
Yeah, but would you like if you didn't already know it was Donald?
Right.
Would you be able to tell that? I don't think people would guess it. I think maybe people would guess it, but not figure it out concretely.
Will they change his voice?
That's a good question. I guess the question too is, who do we get more of first?
Him or Thurman?
Like Donald in the past, or Troy in the more recent past.
Yeah, well, that's the question. So I assume they're going to open season 3 probably with this flashback stuff, but will they pick up with this whole Donald and Helen thing in the past, or will we get a glimpse of Silo 1?
Yeah, they could go timey-wimey with it and jump right to Troy right away. Kind of how Shift starts up, right?
Yeah.
And
I think Shift first they show him just as he's become a senator and he's meeting
Congressman.
with
Let's not give
Congressman. Sorry, Congressman. Yeah. Do you think are there going to be nanos? Abby and I are worried there's not going to be nanos.
Really?
Yeah,
no, I think there's going to be nanos.
They keep burying the lead if that is the case. Like there was supposed to be Silo 17 pumped through with good nanos, and that doesn't seem to be the case. And now I don't know. I guess this bad gas has got to be the bad nanos, right?
Yeah, I think it has to be. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. Because how would you just contain with no barrier? How would you just contain a poison gas outside?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, but then I wonder the whole. Well, they kind of like said that they had the bad nanos that they would eat up, the area immediately around the silos more than elsewhere, like not just target human DNA, but kill everything. And that there like are these towers around the edges. It seemed I thought were like controlling them. But now I wonder with this dirty bomb stuff, what if they set off a dirty bomb around the silos?
No, could be. Could be, but then how long is this after? I don't remember. Do you
It's
remember how long it is?
300. Yeah, it's been like 300 something years, even longer than the books.
So it's
Like
probably
352 or something.
Yeah, so then it's probably enough time for that to heal.
Right, exactly. So they must be maintaining it somehow. I don't know.
So that's why it's got to be something that's continuous,
Yeah.
like the nanos.
Okay. Well, so the one thing about Lucas's story, though, that I really missed, and that I think affects a lot of the rest of the story, is like he and Juliet in the books, while they're in the separate silos, he's in the bunker and she's, in Solo's bunker, and they find a way to talk to each other and have these romantic talks at night. And so now I'm like, they took away the goodbye scene with them in the jail cell before she's sent out to clean. They took away this. I'm like, you better give me a good romance next season.
Look, sexting transcends time and place.
And it's
and
very deep.
In the book, yeah. In the book,
That's what she said.
definitely, yeah.
Any other final spoilery thoughts?
I'm just really excited to get the Donald story. I wanted a little bit of it this season. We couldn't get it because I knew they had split up the first book, so I wasn't expecting it, even though I was hoping for some of it. But I am really interested to see what's going on with Lucas because, like you said, it's so different. And what's going on with Camille? Like, is she going to step up? Is she going to do it?
Right.
I mean, obviously, it's supposed to be Donald on the other side of that call, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it is Donald on the other side of the algorithm because especially that last moment where Sims is like, I want to save the silo. And he said, I do too. I'm like, that's not Thurman. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that we got what we got at the end here, and I'm excited to see more. And I just think they continue to nail the casting, so I'm very excited to see who Thurman will be, even if it's not John Slattery, who is my pick for Thurman.
I think John Goodman would be another good Thurman.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I see it.
I think he plays like a guy who's just like really confident, traditionally masculine, really well, and I think that's what I picture Thurman is. And he also plays a good villain, like you see him in Oh Brother Where Art Thou playing the Cyclops, this scammer, and I think he could do it. I think he can nail it. I always read Thurman as John Goodman when I pictured him in the book.
Okay.
I like to cast my books.
Yeah.
Do you know that? I don't know about you, but I like cast books in my head sometimes. And for me, that was my casting for that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think I did cast. I don't always cast, but in this case, I think I did have John Slattery in my head. I don't know. Just I think his Mad Men persona particularly, but then worse.
Okay. I didn't realize that was his name, but now I see it. I don't know. I could see it. I could see either one of them though.
Yeah. I'm sure so far so good. So I'm sure they'll surprise me with someone I didn't even think of, and it'll be the perfect person. Yeah.
Right.
Well, okay. So that's enough spoiler talk for here. And you can be sure that Abby and I are going to go through all the book spoilers teased up in this episode with a fine-tooth comb in the 2 spoiler casts coming to the book club members and season pass holders this coming weekend next. And then Luke and I will be back again soon to wrap up this season with a sprinkling of a little extra news. Thank you again so much, John, for stepping in today. I told you probably an hour and 40 minutes, but let's be honest, it's the finale. So
we're having too much fun.
Yes. Well, see you all in a week or less if you're subscribed to the Spoilercasts. And until then, just remember, if you want to get the girl, you got to get her a Pez dispenser with a little yellow ducky.
Hey everyone, David here. The wait is over, Severance is back. The Lorehounds are teaming up with Properly Howard to bring you comprehensive coverage of Season 2. Join John, Anthony, Steve, and myself each week as we dive into this amazing show. Here's what you need to know. We've set up a dedicated feed for our Severance coverage. To join us, just search for Severance Lorehounds in your podcast player, or click the feed link in our link tree. You'll find that in the show notes below. If you're already a Patreon or Supercast subscriber, don't worry. You'll get the ad-free versions automatically in your regular feed. Plus, exclusive access to our upcoming bonus episodes that we'll be announcing soon. The early reviews are incredible. Apple's marketing push is huge, and we cannot wait to explore this season with you. And unlike the music dance experience, you don't need Mr. Milchick's permission to join us. Don't forget, you can find the feed link in our link tree in the show notes, or just search Severance Lorehounds wherever you get your podcasts. Join us for what's shaping up to be an incredible season.
And remember, your outie will thank your innie for subscribing.